Mercy Bush is getting into filmmaking. Although she's actually been involved for quite a while. Since she was in the 9th grade, it was something that she wanted to pursue. She has worked as a transcriptionist. So if you want to learn a bit about what that involves doing, she knows a few people in the industry and talks about the pros and cons of having those resources for questions as she begins her career. And it's really great to listen to her discuss that. And she clearly has a lot of energy because she's working on a lot. Podcasting, she's starting a new podcast. She's starting acting, directing, editing, all that fun stuff. She has a little side gig doing marketing, and she's working on possibly doing a family-style talk show. So for those of you with a lot of energy and a lot of ideas, this is a great show for you. So tune in, check it out after this quick sponsor break. So I want to start because on your information here, it says that you were a transcriptionist for a cooking show called Chopped and Chopped Sweets. So first of all, explain what a transcriptionist does.
So basically, they would send over like just rough footage of the show, and I would have to watch the video and then also have like a Word doc up of everything they said. So I'm like, have to make sure the time codes lined up. I had to make sure all the words were correct. So it definitely was a lot of work, especially with the longer videos, because you had to like stop it, make sure that like stop, go. It was just, it's a lot of work, but it was fun. And I like that I got that experience, especially to be a part of, even if I'm just behind the scenes, a part of like Chopped Sweets and Chopped because they're big cooking shows. Yeah. So
did you become a super fast typist?
I wouldn't say it was super fast, but I definitely, once I started to get the hang of it, I was like, okay, I start to go through it quicker. So I guess you can say, I wouldn't say I'm super fast, but I got better at it.
And the purpose of that is to do like the subtitles and stuff for when they put it out there?
Yep. A lot of work.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And to me, it sounds like it would be tough because you're just sitting there like for quite a while. So let's say, I don't remember that show. Is it 30 minutes or is it an hour?
I think it's probably an hour. I forget. That was like, I think it depends. I think it was an hour long show.
So per episode, like how long would it take you to transcribe that episode?
Could take anywhere between an hour, 2 hours to just do like one episode, maybe even longer. I know one time it took me almost like a whole shift, like, because I was there from like 9 a.m. in the morning to like 5 in the afternoon. And I'm like, sometimes it could take you like a whole day just to do one episode. Probably because I was still slow at that point, but yeah, it really depends on which particular video you're doing, because some of them were shorter. The ones that were longer were like the ones where they're explaining how they did stuff in that episode. So like those little videos were very long, but yeah, I would say between like 1 and 2 hours. If it's a really long video, probably like almost half the day.
Wow. Yeah. And do they pay you by the video or do they pay you by the hour?
So that was an internship. So I was getting a stipend for it. So I was like commuting to New York because the place was in New York that I was doing it at. So so I was just getting like a little stipend for it. And unfortunately they stopped because of COVID. So
what, they didn't move that remotely? Because that sounds like the perfect kind of a job that you could do remotely.
Yeah, I was doing it remotely because it was getting too much for me to commute, because that was a lot of work, like commuting. But they still just stopped. I don't know. They just stopped contacting me because I guess because COVID happened, so everything just stopped.
How did you find that? So you were interning. Did you reach out to the studio and like, hey, you looking for interns?
So I was looking for jobs, like film related jobs on Indeed, and I just came across that. And I got it. So
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting. So I want to ask, because you've got family that's in the business. Your cousin is Marcelo Thedford.
Yes.
And who is married to Trina McGee. And she was in Boy Meets World. And I think she's done a few other things as well, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, the dynamic of knowing people that are in the industry. Do you find that beneficial to have them as resources?
It's definitely beneficial because they like Marcelo, he gives me a lot of advice that he has other people pay him for. So it's beneficial in that sense. But in the sense where people are like, oh, you have access to them. You're going to like, you can get into the industry so quickly. That's not the case because they're not like that. It's like, they want you to still work to get in it. And I like that because like, I don't want to just be handed something. Like at first I was like, oh, that's annoying. But I like that they are pushing me to really learn the industry and get better at, like acting, just a bunch of stuff that we're doing. So
are you looking to be an actor? Because I know most of your work's been behind the camera, correct?
Yeah. So I actually have been doing like auditions for acting because I don't know, like I just was more of like, I want to be a director. I want to be a screenwriter, like just doing stuff behind the camera. But then I was like, I just feel like I have a lot of emotion inside of me. So I feel like I can act.
Okay.
I can express that. And so yeah, I've just been like doing a lot of auditions, trying to make it in that field as well.
So do they give you advice then on when you're going into an audition, this is kind of how to present yourself, or, if you have a self-tape, or is it like, hey, this is how to do a self-tape? Like what would you reach out to like Trina or Marcelo about?
Yeah. So like if I don't really reach out to them about the acting in the sense, because we usually do stuff behind the camera. Yeah. But if I did reach out to them about acting, I would ask like, how do you prepare yourself for an audition? Because usually when I'm doing an audition, I'll just like I would just reread the script over and over again. It doesn't take me that long to like memorize it. But I don't know, it's definitely kind of like stressful at times, especially with the longer monologues that you have to do for an audition. But yeah, I would like reach out to them about how to prepare yourself for that. And just ask them for their tips on what they've done in auditions and everything.
Yeah, that's probably handy because I know, especially starting out, if sure, there's YouTube videos and you can take classes and stuff, but it definitely is probably better to hear stuff like that from somebody who's done it and knows. Yes. With the behind the camera stuff then too, because this was kind of the main thing that I wanted to talk to you about too, is you've done some editing. Is that right?
Yes.
So describe kind of like what an editor does, because I think that would be interesting for the audience, because I view an editor as being an undervalued contributor to a film. I think when the awards come around and they're like best director and everybody's cheering for the director that made this great film, the editor made a great film that out of all of the stuff that the director sent them. That's my opinion on editing. I think it's a under-recognized field. So talk a little bit about video editing for me.
Yes, and I completely agree with that because editing is a lot of work. I was the type of person when I first started doing it, I did not like it. It's just when I started off editing, I was slow at it and I was like, I can't do this. I'm not good at it. I just didn't have the confidence that like in myself that I was a good enough editor. But then I started to like recently get back into it, and I ended up, I had to like kind of dust off the cobwebs because I took like 3-4 years off from editing. Mm-hmm. But I would say that it comes down to what type of project you're doing, because some projects can take a long time. Some projects can be quicker. Like the music video I just did for my sister was very short, and I did a very good job on that. But it's hard when people are kind of watching over your shoulder, because I work better when I can just do it myself. Like, let me be creative. Let me do what I need to do.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of basically similar to like this transcription job. It's a lot of like stopping, cutting, like just, you have to make sure especially with music videos, you have to make sure everything lines up. So it's very like precise. You have to like just make sure that every little thing is accurate and correct. And it's like, I don't even know. It's hard to explain how it is, but
yeah. Well, like with editing a music video, because you're editing to the music, right?
Yeah.
So you're thinking about like where the cuts are happening on the beat, that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have you had to deal with, I mean, that was probably easier because it was your sister, but doing an edit for somebody else and kind of having to kind of push back on them? Because I know sometimes directors think that everything they do is brilliant. And the reality is it's like, if you cut this piece here, this will be a much better film or short film or a video or a music video or something like that. Have you had to deal with that in any situations yet?
Not yet. So I'm like, thankfully.
Oh, look forward to that then. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I'm still like getting all my everything set up with that, because like I just got back into it. So but yeah, I definitely know there were some jobs that I was going to apply for, but once I saw what they wanted me to do, I already knew. I was like, no. Because they're like, you have to make sure you do everything the director says, like, and that's fine, but you have to also give the editor their own creative freedom too, because if you're kind of just like blocking that off, it's not going to be fun, Yeah. And it's like, I don't want to see this like film stuff. I don't see as a job. I see it's fun for me because I like doing it. It's my passion. So if I had to be a part of like a team that was kind of like controlling me so much where I couldn't have any room to breathe and do my own work, then I wouldn't like that. But I know it happens.
I think it's a good idea to hand it off to an editor sometimes, because I did a film a couple of years ago, and I usually edit most of my stuff, but I did a short film a couple of years ago and I handed it off to the editor. And it was interesting to get it back from him to see some of the decisions he made. And some of them I really liked and I hadn't thought of, and then from that point we collaborated and I, would put my information, we'd go back and forth and I'd make changes and he'd make changes. But it was a really interesting, that's the only time I've ever done that. But it was a really interesting collaborative process because he was looking at it from a different point of view than I was. So it was really, I think editors are great. And just the amount of time that you're spent sitting at your desk doing these little changes that people don't realize how much time goes into an editing a film. It's great. How do you practice your craft? Like, how do you learn? Is it YouTube videos? Have you taken classes? Is it just kind of getting into the software and playing with it? Yeah,
that's honestly, I learn best when I'm hands-on. So like, I can't take a class or like do that because yes, I'll learn some stuff, but like, it's not going to help me if I'm not playing around with it. So I usually just would go into the editor, and even if I make some mistakes, I'm just like playing around with it, just doing things. I'm like, okay, now I know how this works. That's how I learn. I learn best that way.
Okay. What do you use? Is it Premiere Pro or Final Cut or?
Yeah. So I actually just got one that's called Movavi. That's actually one Marcelo told me to get, because it's just like, especially when you're just getting back into editing, it's like an easier one to get around. So yeah. And I used to use like Premiere Pro and Final, I don't like Final Cut. Premiere Pro wasn't too bad, but I like the Movavi one because it's a lot more easier than the other one that's not as complex.
Yeah. For kind of the basic stuff. Well, and the problem with Premiere is Movavi, you get it once, because my problem with Premiere is the fact that it's subscription based now. So you got to pay for it basically every month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I switched over to DaVinci Resolve, and I've been using that because it's free, but it's a steep learning curve. DaVinci Resolve is.
Yeah. So I paid for it once and I got it. So I don't have, there's no subscription for it.
With editing, how did you find editing a music video? A friend of mine did one, and he was talking about it, and he was like, by the time I was done doing that video, I hated that song. I never wanted to hear it again. Was your experience similar?
Yeah. It was a shorter song. It was You Make Me Feel Like It's You Make It Feel Like It's Christmas by Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani. So it was a short song. So I'm not super tired of it because I don't listen to it's like a Christmas song. So I don't listen to Christmas songs regularly. So it wasn't where I definitely did get tired of it. Every time I heard it, I'm like, okay, I'm good. But since I don't listen to Christmas songs a lot, if I heard it again, like next Christmas time, I wouldn't hate it totally.
Okay. That's good. Yeah, I guess so. So I'm curious, like, have you, in regards to, because you've done quite a bit, you've directed a few things, editing, you've gotten into acting. Is there kind of one area that kind of is a key area of focus? Like, this is the one that I enjoy out of all of those?
I would say it would be between acting and directing, because that's probably more directing, because that's the one is the reason I wanted to be get into film, is because of that. I want to be a director. I just find that I just like, and I don't want to say I like being in control, but not like, I don't want to
you
sound
like bossing everybody else around, and yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I like directing. I always thought that it was just an interesting craft. And that's something I'm still learning and getting my head around. And that's something Marcella is helping me with as well. Because there's definitely, I was a background, an extra in a film, and I was watching the director because I was just trying to see how she was doing it. And there's actually a lot more to it than I thought. And I was like, okay. So there's definitely more I need to learn. But I'm glad that I had that experience because it gave me more insight on it. But yeah, I like directing a lot.
Yeah, I've said that to people in the past too. Being an extra on set, if you're paying attention, it's a valuable learning experience, because especially a larger production, because you have an opportunity to just watch how the production works and what everybody's doing and how the director works, especially if you wanted to get into directing. Have you had a chance to assist Marcelo on anything?
Not yet, but he did offer me to come down. So I am planning that. So I will be down the road going to see him and working on some projects, because he does have some projects that he wants me to work on with him.
Oh, that's fantastic. Is that in Philadelphia, or is that like Atlanta or New York?
Yeah, so he lives in Mexico now. So I would have to go down there. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they moved from LA to Mexico because I think they didn't like the environment in LA. So they said that the people in Mexico are a lot nicer. So they moved there.
Wow. And they're making films, like English speaking films or Spanish speaking films. Sorry, I know this is a little off subject, but I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah.
Because you generally don't hear about somebody saying LA is where it all happens, but screw that, I'm going to Mexico, especially in the film industry.
Yeah. He's we're bilingual. Well, I'm not bilingual. Well, my mom's from Honduras. So I'm Latino, I'm a Black Latino, but I just don't speak Spanish because I didn't learn it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he that whole side of the family, they're Hispanic. So he's working on stuff. They did take a break because they're focusing more on they have a bunch of businesses that they're running. So but yeah, he did mention to me that there's something in the works that he wants to do for Indigenous people, and just a project in that sense. So he didn't explain to me too much in detail on what it was, but definitely something is going to be coming with that.
Well, that's great, though. It'd be great to have that opportunity. Absolutely. I guess that's definitely a benefit to knowing people that are in the industry already.
Yes.
Is there much going on in Philadelphia in regards to film or television?
Not in this area. There's a lot of college films. That's what I've been noticing. A lot of because we have like Temple University, they have a film class in that. And then there's a bunch of the universities in Philly that have those film stuff. So I'm seeing a lot of college stuff, but like as in bigger productions, I don't see a lot of stuff around this area. I know a lot of the places where like Georgia is very popular right now. So I kind of want to go there eventually because there's a lot of opportunity there. But yeah, in this area, not too much.
Oh, okay.
So it is harder to kind of get out there and get your foot in that door because there's not a lot of projects going on.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that because it's one of those areas where industries where it's helpful to be in certain areas because just of the opportunity and that kind of stuff. But it sounds like you're creating a bit of opportunity for yourself. I mean, editing, directing your own projects and that kind of stuff. I want to ask you too, because you're starting a podcast, getting into the podcast game.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about your podcast.
So it's going to be like faith-based. My sister and I decided we wanted to kind of talk about this things we learned as Christians that we didn't know when we were younger, especially now with like how things are going in the world. And, especially with Gen Z, we kind of want to like reach out to them about certain issues. Like a lot of stuff that people are not going to like for us to talk about, but we're going to talk about it because they need to be addressed. But yeah, so we decided.
Sorry to interrupt there. Like what would people not want to talk about? Can you say, or sorry, I don't know if that's too much, but I mean, you're going to have it on a podcast. So I guess.
Yeah. So like, okay, I guess, if we're going to get into that.
we don't need to if you don't want to. I was just kind of curious because the thing is like, there's so many podcasts out there now. Like I know with this podcast, there's a lot of these types of podcasts of like indie filmmaking podcasts and stuff like that. So I'm curious what the motivation is, what. And it'll help you promote the podcast when it's out. People will be like, I heard about their podcast on Milo's podcast. Yeah, I'm going to check it out.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about a lot of the stuff that like masturbation, sex before marriage, and the I don't know if I want to say that.
Okay, well, you don't have to say anything. So I guess what I'm getting is, so it's faith-based, but you're going to talk about a lot of stuff that is generally considered stuff you don't talk about within a strong Christian community is kind of what I'm getting, what you're saying.
Yeah. So like stuff that people
feel uncomfortable talking about.
Yeah. And especially because a lot of, churches nowadays don't like want to address certain things or that they're too scared to speak on it. Mm-hmm. Especially, with the, LGBTQ community. I'm going to just stop right there, but there's just a lot of stuff that, that comes with our faith that we feel need to be talked about and that needs to be put out there because a lot of people are not, there's just a lot of darkness in this world. And I want to hopefully bring a light into the world because of it. I want to change people's lives and, share my faith with everyone. So,
all right. What's it going to be called, or have you named it yet?
So right now it's we're gonna call it Mercy and Alicia in the Morning, because that we used to do like a fake talk show when we were kids called Mercy and Alicia in the Morning. So we just thought that's what it should be called. Okay.
And you're going to do it in that style as well?
Yes. So we're going to hopefully like kind of do like similar to what you're doing, have guests on talk about it, so we can get more professional insight on certain topics and everything.
Yeah, that's finding guests is an interesting aspect of doing a talk show, and then like coordinating schedules and that kind of stuff too. It's always like, when are you available? Okay, yeah, that works for me. That kind of stuff. So that's interesting. Well, good luck with it. I hope it all works out.
Thank you.
Last question, like if people want to find you or know more about you, social media, anything like that you want to mention?
Yes. So my Instagram is at m.d.b._entertainments.
Okay.
And that's honestly the one I use the most. I have a TikTok. I'm trying to remember what that one was.
I've got m.d.b._214.
Yes, that's what it is.
It's nice that you made it easy for people to remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you doing anything on TikTok? Because I'm not on TikTok. I'm over 20, so I don't think I'm their target audience.
Yeah, I have
I'm over 30, so really I'm definitely not the target audience.
You do not look like you're over 30.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, so I really just post like weird, like stupid stuff, like challenges. But I don't use a lot. I'm only really on there because I have a network marketing business that I'm promoting for, and just trying to make engaging videos to try to reach out to people with my business. Okay. So there's not a lot on TikTok, but my Instagram is the one I'm on the most. So
no worries. I'll throw a link into the show notes, but it sounds like you're quite busy. So you've got editing, directing, getting into acting, an upcoming podcast that you're working on, a marketing thing, quite active.
Yeah. And I'm also I'm planning a talk show as well with my whole family, similar to like the Red Table Talk. Again, it's going to be like faith-based, but we're going to like just talk about issues with our family, like stuff we haven't gotten over, and just kind of dish everything out. So that's going to be fun to get out as well.
And your parents are okay with that?
Mm-hmm. And my mom was the one who thought of it. So
wow, that's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for talking to me, and thanks for taking the time, and thanks a lot. Okay. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
You have a good day.
Thanks, you too.